take charge of their future and blueprint their personal brand. I want to introduce you to an extraordinary woman whose expertise and vision have transformed the lives of countless people. She's a trailblazer, a creator, and a mentor who has mastered the art of building brands that reflect true lifestyle. Over the past 6 years, Anne has turned over 20, and I like to say fairy dust ideas, and I got that from her husband, as he calls them, into thriving online businesses. These ventures have helped people not only achieve five-figure incomes, but also scale up to multiple seven-figure success stories. Anne is the co-founder of Vectorworks Media and the founder of Design Daily. She's also a four-time author and has rightly earned the title of Queen of Lifestyle Business, building an empire of over 8 figures to her name. She has testimonials from people like Lance Wallnau, Michael McIntyre, and Olympic gold medalist Michelle Coulter. I know. I've had the privilege of knowing Anne for about 6 years and have personally witnessed her brilliance in action. From attending professional photo shoots and live training sessions to traveling with her for events in Nevada and in Texas, I've seen her passion for empowering others firsthand. Her dedication to helping others create impactful and sustainable brands is simply unmatched. And also helped me blueprint my personal brand, guiding me to align my vision with my goals in a way that feels both authentic and powerful. So, would you all put your hands together on this virtual stage and welcome to the Queen of Lifestyle Business herself, Anne McDonald? Let's go. Thank you, Anne. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shannon. When I hear that, how many of you have ever been like, somebody reads your bio and you're like, who is that? Like, who is that? Like, because it doesn't feel like us, right, friend? Like sometimes we get in that space. Have you ever been in that space? Pardon me, I'm going to do a quick cough. I always like to say I'm getting delivered a something when that comes up. Have you ever felt like you had a big call on your life and you weren't sure how it was going to materialize? And you kind of go into that place where, like, Shannon, you were reading that, and I'm like, who is what? Like, what?
It's so easy to introduce you.
Well, there are times I'm like, I still feel like the woman in the basement who was trying to like hammer this stuff out. And so that's actually why I'm excited to be on today to help somebody. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you on the live stream. Go ahead and just write in the chat where you're from, like what your area of expertise is, if you're new to the online space, if you're new to branding, because I remember what that was like because it wasn't that long ago that I was just sitting there. I was like, I don't know what to do. I know I have a call in my life. So give me a one in the chat if you know you have a call in your life and come on, you know that it's a big call, but you're not quite sure like why you keep circling the mountain, right? Does that,
Right.
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I've circled
Awesome.
that mountain a time or two myself.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
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 great.
that's why I'm excited to share today. So, if you're okay with it, Shannon, I actually prepared a quick training on like the top three things that actually will help us get out of our own head and create a personal brand. But I want to toss it back to you. Do you have like are there questions that you think would be good for me to make sure I hone in on today to really help a bunch of people?
I do. The first question that I have, Anne, is your journey is just so incredibly inspiring. Can you share how you actually got started and what led you to discover this unique approach?
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever, like I said, you have a big idea or you feel like you have a big call, but you don't actually know where to start, right? And sometimes you feel like you start to look around on the internet and you start to see if, you Google and you do some research and you're scrolling TikTok or scrolling, Instagram or Facebook or even YouTube. And you're like, oh, somebody's already doing it. And they're doing it way better than I ever could, like even in my wildest dreams. Because that's actually where I was. And I felt like I had a big idea for some online businesses. And I started to Google and I'm like, oh, I'm too late. I'm too old. I'm too late. I'm too round. I got too many, and I wear like blue light, like, I went into the whole Eeyore thing, right? Have you ever done that? Like,
I have. I
I'm
have
like,
done that.
I'm just going to pack up and quit. And so that's kind of where I was. And then I had this seminal moment. And I don't know about you, but I take great inspiration from the word of God, the scriptures. And there's a verse in Psalms that actually helped shift the narrative for me in my own head. So would it be okay if I shared that here in this context?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So it's about a tree. So just imagine yourself as a tree and you're planted, like you're planted. So you're not like getting up and walking around the room. You're not hustling and grinding. You're kind of like that tree behind me. You're planted, but you're planted by streams of living water.
Mm,
And that living water, it helps you bear fruit. And so I had this moment where I was like, wait a minute. I think I'm going about this thing all wrong.
mm,
And that was kind of a seminal moment for me when God opened up that verse to me, where I was like, okay, mindset shift. I'm not going to go hustle. I'm not going to compare,
right.
right? Does that make sense, Shannon?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think that reference, are you referencing Psalm 1?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's such a powerful imagery that you just shared with us. And your DNA system is absolutely fascinating. I love that concept. What are some of the most significant struggles that people face when trying to implement it? Like, how does your system guide them to overcoming these challenges?
So that's a great question. So let's go back to that imagery for a second, friends. So right now you've got your big idea, you've got your stuff, and we're gonna close out all the distractions because I want to give you some practical tacticals. So just write in the chat practical tacticals. Okay. The first one is that we're gonna image ourselves as a tree planted by streams of living water. So super healthy, the air around us is clean, the water around us is clean. Everything around us is designed to help us flourish and thrive. That's the first thing. The second thing, and you mentioned my DNA method. So the DNA method or system, whatever you want to call it, really has to do with your unique gifts. So think about this for a second. Think about how you do something, right? Think about how you make the coffee in the morning, how you might take a walk, how even like you choose your glasses, right?
Right.
How you like I like, Shannon and I talk like I'm good with big, you know. I'm good with a little over the top. And that's just kind of how I show up and how I like to do stuff. And so the DNA method, the system is really to help people get out of their own head and have permission to show up as themselves, right?
Yeah.
To be authentic.
Hmm.
And yeah, it really makes the difference, especially online, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to be a carbon copy of everybody else. We actually want to be who God made us to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
heard, I heard, it said that showing up authentic is more powerful than love.
Come
Showing
on.
up authentic is more powerful than love. I love that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Wow. Can we unpack that for a second? Because how many of you have ever been in a space where You felt like in order to succeed or to fit in, you had to change who you were.
Right.
You had to dial it back, maybe not be so extra, maybe not be so whatever. Have you ever gone into a room, Shannon, where you felt like you had to make yourself smaller to fit in?
Oh, yes.
Right? And
Yes.
and that's literally the opposite of what I believe our creator actually designed us to be. Like, come on, right? Arise and shine.
Arise and shine.
Come on. I love that. Yeah. So how like I'm happy to like dive into like practicals and tacticals and stuff like that just to help somebody like shake off the noise, right? Just shake it
Right.
off.
Right.
Um yeah.
So I know that people, they have external obstacles when they are even thinking about doing their personal brand. And in the faith space, many struggle with permission, wondering, am I allowed to make the money? Am I allowed to be bold and to stand out? And others face practical barriers like limited financial resources or even a lack of support from those around them. So, how does your system address these external challenges and empower people to tackle and overcome those so they can dive in
I
authentically?
I love that. I'm going to tell a quick story about when I was like under it to help somebody. Somebody write in the chat, help. Like, help is on the way. So back in the day, well, let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever had, like Shannon just asked, an a constraint? Maybe you had a relational constraint. Somebody wasn't supporting you. Maybe you had a financial constraint. You're like looking at the bank balance. I jokingly say my credit cards had credit cards. So that's kind of where I was. I was underneath the basement and I'm like, I know I got this big idea. I know I got this call. And I was like trying to hustle it out, taking every course, joining every program, and nothing was shifting. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this moment. I'm going to share again a reference from the Bible. There are two stories that really helped me with this. So lean in, friend. Just say deep wisdom, right?
Deep wisdom.
Deep wisdom. Now, this is not Anne's wisdom. This is God's wisdom. So I'm just like snuggling up to God. I'm like, okay, teach me here. So the first story is the story of the rich young ruler. Because I was in this place where I actually had financial and relational stress at the same time. So just let me drop a one in the chat if you've ever had that, and wherever you're watching or somebody who's had that. So I'm under the house. I want you to get the picture here. And I have, joined programs. I've put, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, actually even $25,000 on my business credit card. And my husband, who I love, but at the time he did not have an entrepreneurial mindset at all. And so he looked at everything that I was spending as just that spending, not investing. And so I'm under the house and he comes down and he's got the American Express bill highlighted, highlighted. And let's just say it wasn't my finest moment. Is that okay? So just get the picture here for a second. So I'm the last of five girls, Shannon. Now, my dad was an athlete. In fact, he was actually drafted into the minors in baseball by the St. Louis Cardinals when he was young. So this girl knew how to throw. So somebody say, and does not throw like a girl. She knew how to throw. I was the last of five girls. Okay. So get in your head, like, think of something like maybe not your finest moment. You're not using the gifts of the Lord for like greatness. Okay. So I'm under the basement. I'm stressed. I'm like, this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing, God. Hubs comes down, well meaning, linear thinker, Wall Street guy, American Express bill highlighted. I got a set of keys on my desk. So I pick up the keys. And ladies and gentlemen, I am not like throwing like a girl. I am like I'm getting my core centered. Okay. And so I actually go and I pick up these keys and I hurl them at my husband. Okay. Like I said, not my finest moment. But here's the kicker. He just reaches up super calmly, puts his hand up, and he catches. Okay, now I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in a place where you're like, you got all your arsenal, right? And you're like ready to like make your point. Well, in that moment, I just want to give credit to God here because I simultaneously burst out in laughter and tears.
Mm.
But more importantly than that, something broke in me in a good way. And I started to take 100% responsibility. This is the key, friends, for the ideas that God had given to me. I stopped. It was like this veil got pulled off my eyes in that moment. I stopped blaming my circumstances being under the house. I stopped blaming my husband for not supporting me. I stopped blaming God for not helping me. I just stopped. And when I look at, well, let me ask the audience a question. Have you ever had a seminal moment in your life where maybe you just stopped? Just snap your fingers with me. You just stopped. And you're like, oh, God gave the idea to me. He didn't give it to my husband, did he? Right? He didn't give it to my friend. He didn't give it to my sisters. He gave it to me. So just say me. Tap yourself, right?
Me.
And there was this freedom, Shannon. I know your stuff is called Simply Freedom. There was this freedom that came over me. And instead of looking around my external circumstances, my business credit cards that had business credit cards, my office, which was a basement. I have a picture of it that I can share later, where it's like the ceiling insulation was kind of falling down, like it was not pretty. And so let me ask you this. So and I'll tie this back to the rich young ruler in a second, friends. It was that moment of personal responsibility for me where everything broke in a good way. What helped me was reading the story about the rich young ruler. Now, why, Anne? Like, why the rich young ruler? What are you talking about? Well, so if you've ever had credit cards that had credit cards for your business, I mean, you think about even, startups, they have angel investors, right? They put in tens and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars before they make a profit. So I'm reading the story and I'm like, well, the rich young ruler has all the money that he needs for anything. And when Jesus was like, will you lay down what you have for what I'm offering you? The rich young ruler went away sad because he wouldn't do it. And so lean in on this one, friends. No matter what the obstacle is, whether it's money, time, in the case of the rich young ruler, giving up his current comfort level to follow Jesus, there's always a moment where you and I have an opportunity. Somebody write opportunity in the chat to actually take 100% responsibility for the call that God put on our life. So, Shannon, whenever I am in those situations with external objections, I'm like, God, what do I need to lay down that I'm clinging to, that I think is my safety, in order to take 100% responsibility to get to the next level? So that's one of the things that I come back to constantly. Does that help unpack it?
That is actually so powerful, Anne, when you talked about taking 100% responsibility for what God has placed on the inside of you. And it's only you that can actually walk it out with him. And I know one of my favorite pictures, and it's one of yours as well, is the teddy bear. And I use this imagery a lot when God was asking me personally to give up some things. And I'm like, I don't want to give that up. I love that, but it's a picture of the small teddy bear behind the little girl's back, and or in front of her, and he has the massive teddy bear behind his back, and he's wanting to do a trade. And so if we would just be obedient and walk out what he's saying, that it is an upgrade in that. And I love how you talk about that responsibility piece in the actual space of what God's called us to do. I love that. It's so powerful. And it is such a simple way just to strip everything away and look in the mirror and say, this is between me and God. This is what he's put inside of me to walk out. And it's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, that helped me. And the truth is, everything changed after that. So I did this janky little webinar for one of my products. The webinar was not great. I still actually have the recording of it, and I still have my bank screenshot of my bank balance, because after that moment, I literally made, now, it was it $100,000? No, ma'am. Was it $25,000? No, ma'am. Were there 100 people on the call? No, ma'am. There were, I had 19 people, and I made just under $5,000. And I was like, everything changed.
Mm.
Right. If you're watching on the replay, or you're watching live stream with us, we've got Patty, Caleb, and Iris in the room with us today. Some of our fabulous clients. If you're in a position where you can type this, just say opportunity. Opportunity. I took my eyes off of what the problem was, and I took my eyes and I put them on the opportunity that God was opening up for me. And that it was like, just snap your fingers, like everything changed, right? And it wasn't like I, you know, released any weight. It wasn't like I had better software. It wasn't like I had my eyes done. It wasn't like I had anything. I didn't have anything to show for it except that internal shift of not blaming my circumstances, not blaming the people around me, and changing what I was looking at in the moment. So I hope that helped. Does that help in anybody else? Like,
It, it
yeah,
is fire. This is fire. This is fire. So just your example that you're actually living out, that you took personal responsibility and then you showed up authentically.
correct. And we had, yeah, what you just said, Shannon. And Iris, who's on with us today, she's actually one of our mastermind clients. She said, like in the Garden of Eden, right? We look at which opportunity are we looking at?
Right.
Which tree in the garden are we looking at? That's awesome, Iris. I love that.
That is so good.
I
That
love
is so
that.
good. That is good. This is so enlightening and empowering conversation. And like so many people, I love how you also said with the comparison and everything. And it's such a simple thing. It's such a simple thing. And we want to make things way more complicated than they need to be. And where can our audience go to learn about your system and to connect with you personally?
Awesome. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having this conversation with me, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of times we shy away from these conversations. So can we give it up for Shannon? Just having this conversation. And like I said, we got Patty, we got Caleb and Iris on with us today. And I'll share where we have like a bunch of free resources. We actually have a masterclass coming up where we're going to help you blueprint out your, somebody say my, right?
Wow.
My personal brand. Before I share that, I want to ask you a question. Um, have you ever thought, if I could just make peace with me, everything else would be okay? You know, when I had that moment of personal responsibility, I made peace with, oh, okay, I'm okay. It's going to be okay, right? This thing called life, we have this opportunity to show up and serve people. And so, one of the things that we do is we have these things called signatures, right? And that's where we get the DNA method from. It's your DNA. It's Patty's DNA, which is so beautiful. If you don't know Patty, she's got a brand called Matriarch in the Making. It's super cool. Caleb's got a brand called Prep Comms out of South Carolina. Iris Fresh, you know, it's this really cool place. And you, Shannon, with Simply Freedom, it's this place where we need the real you,
Right.
right? And so what we did was we put this together. I actually have I can share my screen, and let me share this with you. Let me go back and just take a I've got somebody just signed up, so there's an email in there, and we want to take that off. So let me share the screen. We have a masterclass coming up, literally called, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Awesome. So blueprint your personal brand in just 4 hours. Somebody just write 4 in the chat. You know, one of the things I realized when I was under the basement and I had that seminal moment was it doesn't have to take a long time. Would it be okay, like Patty, if we just like fast tracked it, right?
Yes.
Would it be okay, Iris, if we just like, how about we just make it faster, right?
Yes.
And then so when you sign up here, it's totally free. And then we do have some VIP opportunities, but this is the URL. It's signaturecourselive.com/register. And what we'll do is I'll drop the link in the chat, and then I'll also drop it on the live stream for y'all. And we just want to, here's the thing, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. So you just fill in right here and then click and join, and you can watch me sharing about that. I know what it's like to have that big call in your life. And you just, whether you want to build for impact, like actually, can I take a quick poll on something for y'all? You know, we've built brands for people who aren't trying to monetize.
Mm.
You know, everybody's always like, oh, well, online, we have to make money. Well, yes, making money is good, but not all callings are financial driven. Some are, right? But not all callings are financial driven. We've helped people build brands. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of where they actually built out a product, an e-com product, to fund a family foundation that serves the nursing community. So we actually helped build a brand so that people would support something so that they could help their philanthropic causes. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's so good.
Right? So just let me know in the chat if that's where you, like, you're in the philanthropic space. Like, we've worked with ministries, we've worked with family foundations, we've worked with people. You know, most of the brands I personally build are or outline are for financial return. But it doesn't have to be that way. You get to fit into your lifestyle, right? Does that help anybody? Does that set somebody free? Like, I had somebody say, like, I have this conversation all the time. Like, they're like, I don't actually want that. I just want something simple, something fun. So,
That's good. I like that as you show up authentically and you are actually you have this in your heart from what the Lord's given you that needs to come out. It's actually to love on other people, to give the people what they need. It's about genuinely caring about the people that is in front of you. And that's one thing that I have seen in you over the years, that when you show up and you have something to offer, it is to genuinely bless and enable and empower the person in front of you. And that is what's so beautiful in that. And it's so simple. The way that you're tying this together is look in the mirror, right? Take personal responsibility, show up authentically, because there is not another person like you on this earth. And even if 100 people are doing what you have on your heart to do, they can't do it the way that you do it. And then you show up with genuine love and care for the people that is in front of you, and it enables them to relax and be able to soak in and get the information they need in order to empower them and walk it out. And that is so good, Anne. That is so good.
I love what you just said, Shannon. Like what you just shared, the way you said it. Think about this, friends. What if it was possible? What if it was possible to be the real you, Patty, Caleb, Iris, Shannon, our streaming fam? What if it was possible to be the real you, right? Kelly, Rachel, what if it was possible? And in that space, that was the secret sauce. That was the jam. That was the jelly. That was all the goods, right?
Right.
That was the sparkler. That was the fairy dust that God could actually breathe on, right? That's everything, you know? So when we blueprint these brands out, the method that I use, Shannon mentioned this earlier, so I just want to give you a practical, tactical takeaway for all y'all. First, make sure you sign up for the masterclass. We only have 100 seats in the masterclass, and at any given masterclass. So once the 100 seats are gone and they're free, and we spend, this isn't like this is like a deep training. Like we're going to blueprint your brand. Okay. We're going to take your idea and we're going to blueprint that together. This is an actual like workshop. So what if in making peace with you, you just simply decided to show up? That's the first part. We're going to make a decision. Then you're going to navigate the undercurrents, the real you, the real audience you want to serve, Iris, the real people you want to impact, Caleb, right? The real people you want to help, Patty. And then we're going to take, and would it be okay with you if we took inspired action instead of like anxious, anxiety ridden, like awful action, right? That like was hard. I don't know. Look around me. I'm good with easy. Right? There's can I share one more scripture? Because
Yes,
I love
please.
the word. I
This
love
is
the
so
word,
good.
friends. This is like business basics from the Bible. So there's a story about Jonathan and his armor bearer. And it's a mess around them. Like it's a flipping mess. Okay, so just imagine like it's a mess, right? This is kind of where I was underneath the basement. It was a mess around me. And Jonathan's like, hey, wait a minute. Can God save by many, if not by few? Meaning God can use us and we could do it. So take that and put it into timing. Hey, wait a minute. Can God not do this in 4 hours instead of 4 years? Like, can I get an amen for 4 hours? Right? So like just write in the chat, amen, 4 hours instead of 4 years. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this masterclass. That's why I'm so passionate about helping you, whether you're building a business, a vocational ministry, supporting a family foundation, whatever, you just want to get your message out. I want to share one more thing and then we can wrap up, or if anybody has any questions. You know, even in the professional, we have a consulting practice, and there are a lot of professional types. Somebody write like LinkedIn types, like I'm in the creative space. So, but a lot of our consulting clients, it's like, their LinkedIn. And what we noticed is the power of a personal brand elevates their status even in those super staid like corporate halls, right? Because people want to engage with people, right? And with the world of AI, like I love AI, but there's no substitute for the real you.
Mhm.
And so that's what we want to help you do. Blueprint out the real you so that it's prosperous the way that you want it. Just say me prosperity.
Prosperity. Right.
Oh,
So
awesome.
if anybody on has any questions, if you want to type them in the chat, you can. And I wanted to share a quick story with my experience with working with Anne on my own personal brand. And she had it all laid out for me. And I was in that own personal tug of war with it, you know? And when she finally looked at me so sweetly and gently, and she said, Shannon, if you'll just do what I'm asking you to do, it will succeed. And I finally just released all the striving, all the stress, and I just followed through with what she said to do. And it played out beautifully. And it helps because you are able to, in those 4 hours, really shorten everything because you've already navigated where we're going. You've already navigated those rough seas, so to speak, that rough place and all those undercurrents going on. And so that's what I loved about that is when you get that framework and that structure going, you've already navigated those things so that we can take all of your years' experiences and just walk it out.
Come on. Yes. Let's give it up for Shannon. Like you rocked it. Like, and I won't to share too much, but you did have great success and you had success in an industry of realm, if you were, a sphere of influence, if you will, where most people wouldn't have thought
Mhm.
it was possible. And we're just following the principles of the Lord, right? Because the Lord loves us. And Isaiah 61, I know it's one of your favorite scriptures.
It
It's
is.
one of mine. We even bought a rental property and we named it Arise 61 because it's time, friends. It really is time for us to arise and shine, right? It's time to arise and shine. And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be toilsome. God's already done all the hard work. There is work involved. There's mindset shifts, right?
Yes,
Trading trading our stuff for God's good. But it's so worth it.
it
So
is.
yeah,
And when you show up authentically, that's when God shows up and can breathe on it.
that's awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for having me today, Shannon.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
give
yes.
it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you today. Your story, your energy, is truly inspiring. And so, can we all just take a moment and give it up for Anne today? So, who's ready to take charge of their future and blueprint their personal brand? If that's you, don't forget to check out the show notes and click on that link. And it's in the chat. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. It is go.signaturecourselive.com because you are one decision away from creating the life that you've always wanted. Your time is now. Your future begins now, and your next big adventure is waiting for you on the other side of that link. So go ahead and take that step and register today, and we can't wait to see where this journey takes you. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.